I got to say, now obviously Matt and Mike on the program spoke about this situation in McKinney. And my take on the cop doing his role to start that video off was that he tripped. And as he fell, he went into that role, which I think is, people who get trained to fight know that's what you do if you get thrown down on the ground. And I think he was embarrassed. I think he felt embarrassed. And I think he's a sick man. And so despite the training that he received, his sick manness took over. And I will also say this. There's clearly a problem on many of these police forces where the cops are marinated, regardless of the training they get. They are marinated in certain attitudes and predispositions. You see the other two cops in that video, and Matt and Mike, I'm sure, played the video and talked about it. But you see the other two cops, presumably they didn't do anything to that guy that they brought back, although that guy, I don't know. But they certainly weren't telling his buddy to calm down. And that video was so, think about just the idea, these kids growing up with that perspective and the idea that they ran when the cops showed up. Yeah, I wonder why. Because every single thing they have learned since they were tiny kids was when the cops show up, your odds of getting hit, abused, whatever, are high enough that it makes more sense for you to run. But, even it's like when I was a kid, these kids, obviously, they weren't doing anything. They were invited to a pool party by their friend who lives in the community. But when I was a kid,
they were on the receiving end of racial slurs.
Yes.
That's still the story, supposedly, of how this all got set off. And it's irrelevant for the clip you're going to play.
When I was a kid, if we were, I don't know, hanging out at like a parking lot or something and we were drinking, we would all take off because we didn't want to get caught by the cops. But the idea that the cops would pull the guns on us or they would throw us down to the ground, it was never even ever contemplate anything like that. So here is Fox and Friends wanting us to just hold our horses and don't make any assumptions. There's all sorts of possible explanations for what you just saw.
Well, the whole thing is you see this video and it's got about 6 million views, probably up to even higher now. And then you say to yourself, well, I kind of feel that I saw the whole story, but you didn't. You weren't there when we got there. We weren't there when the cops got there. You don't know what the call was. You don't know what they were looking for. And that's what Sean, who was on the Kelly File last night, says. He actually defended the cops' behavior, and he was there.
He was the first officer to arrive there, and it was chaos when he arrived there, and I think he kind of had to match that situation with a good amount of aggression to kind of calm the crowd down. I was within feet of him when he sat down 13 to 15 kids and made them sit down on the ground, and the only people he were going after were people who just got up and started running, and it wasn't just black kids. There was a white female was one of the first ones I saw in handcuffs. So I thought he acted the way he needed to help in the chaos that was happening.
All right, so he says he witnessed it.
For a second. So the chaos is created by the cops showing up. And this guy's saying, look, there was a white kid who was handcuffed. And this guy needed to be that aggressive to calm the chaos, which is just absurd. Okay? It's just absurd. Because you know what? Anybody can enter into that situation. You could give anybody a gun and say, be as aggressive as you want. See if you can calm down this chaos. Yeah. The whole point is that cops are supposed to be trained to deal with this. This is why they are supposedly professionals.
A local resident from that neighborhood in McKinney, a fellow by the name of Brian Gessner, posted on Facebook, this account. He said this was a Twitter event that turned mob event, jumping over the pool fence, assaulting 2 security guards, attacking a mother with 3 little girls. Kids were drinking and smoking weed, would not listen to adults around the pool. This isn't about race. It's about outside kids invading our neighborhood and had no respect for authority or the residents who live there. That, according to one of the neighborhood residents who posted that, according to the Dallas Morning News, on Facebook.
All right. So there you have it. This was a Twitter event. I remember when I was a kid, we'd have all these phone events where we would phone each other beforehand and say, hey, meet us there. There's no justification for this. There's just no justification for this. If there were kids there who heard about it from Twitter, if there were kids there who were drinking, underage drinking, or smoking pot, or were being rude, weren't listening to the adults.
Who were calling them the N-word, supposedly?
Well, wait a second. I'm just saying, I'm just going to stipulate all of these charges from this great source on Facebook who's trying to justify their reaction to having these outsiders come in. Even if that's all true, there's no justification for the way that cop acts. There's none. There's none. I doubt there was a single person, adult, there who wasn't in a similar situation when they were kids. You're in the parking lot behind the Friendlies. They're in the pool when they shouldn't be there, getting drunk, getting high.
There wasn't ever a moment where I was black, sir.
Well, I mean,
excuse me. And, you know, it wasn't just the black kids. There were white kids that like to hang out with black kids.
Which is
also there.
a number one sign
Which
of
is something
culpability.
that, you know, you could read into, and you can make it a race thing that I would say that, but that just is the facts as they stand.
Indeed.
And sometimes when you have an aggressive situation, you need to go in and be crazy to neutralize the aggression with the crazy, and then it becomes calm.
Listen, that cop should be in jail right now because he is clearly a danger to society. Far more dangerous than those bikini-clad, bathing suit-clad, towel-wearing, flip-flop-wearing kids who may be drunk or have smoked some pot. The one guy in that entire, even I would include those, that older white woman who was yelling and slapping people saying, you can't be here, I would still say that cop is the one guy who needs to be taken off the street because he's a danger to the community.
The young lady in the bikini was moving in a very aggressive manner, which was not caught on tape.
Her braids
The way
were
her braids
just
were
being so
swinging,
disrespectful.
It reminded me of the 20 minutes I saw of Django Unchained. It was terrifying.